Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Live Chat with James here at ProPix TV in Vancouver, British Columbia. Tonight we're going to take a look at national, international, and of course our local headlines, and we'll talk about what's important in the news. Don't forget that you are welcome to be a part of the conversation and also to add new topics that you would like to discuss on the live broadcast. Don't forget that you can just add your comments in the comment section, and by all means, we will be happy to respond, or at least I will be happy to respond to your comments and carry on a conversation if that is your goal. By all means, we are happy to have you. And excuse me, it is definitely late at night here and probably wherever you're logging in from. But again, it's always cool to know where you're watching from. So if you're logging into the show and watching, by all means, put your city and country into the comment section so we know where you're logging in from. That is always fun to know. Other than that, folks, without further ado, let's get on with our top stories of the day. Now, of course, we begin with international developments where diplomatic efforts and conflicts are dominating the news cycle. We know there's a lot going on, and that includes on the global stage, we look at Ukraine, where President Volodymyr Zelensky is pressing for a 30-day unconditional ceasefire with Russia. He is hoping that would start today, May the 12th. Now, Zelensky has called for direct talks with Russian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Istanbul on May the 15th, but Moscow has rejected the ceasefire proposal, insisting on immediate negotiations instead. Chances are that regardless as to what's put forward in terms of proposals, we're going to see Putin find a way to avoid them. At the end of the day, he has a certain criteria that he wants to meet, and that includes maintaining his control in the region and keeping control of some of the areas geographically that he's already taken possession of or annexed. And that should be a non-talking point when it comes to any peace talks and any type of resolution, as the world does not recognize the annexation through violence and war of another sovereign nation's territory. So insisting on immediate negotiations instead, we'll see how that plays out between Zelensky and Putin in the coming days. European leaders, including British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, French Prime Minister Emmanuel Macron, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, and Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk made a joint phone call to the U.S. President Donald Trump from Kiev over the weekend, urging support for Ukraine's position. The situation remains fluid, with Putin indicating he may discuss the facilitation with Turkish President Erdogan, and that may happen later today. Of course, with them reaching out to President Trump, we'll see how that plays out, because we know that it appears that Trump is just a puppet of Putin's propaganda and really has a lot of the interests of Russia playing out in Washington. So we'll have to watch and see how that plays out. And I hope that Trump takes the side of what's right here as opposed to the side of his friend Vladimir. So we'll have to watch and see again how that plays out. Now, moving over to the Middle East, a significant development in the Israel-Hamas conflict. Hamas announced yesterday its plans to release Israeli-American soldier Eden Alexander, believed to be the last living U.S. citizen held captive in Gaza. The 21-year-old's potential release has sparked cautious optimism, though details remain scarce. Meanwhile, Pope Leo, the first American pontiff, has made a powerful appeal from St. Peter's Square yesterday, declaring no more war and urging global powers to pursue peace. In Asia, India and Pakistan have agreed to a ceasefire following the intense U.S.-led talks Although there is conflict or conflicting reports as to whether the U.S. was involved in these U.S.-led talks, or if that is just, again, Donald Trump blowing smoke out his ass to try to make it appear as though he had some involvement when he really didn't. It's hard to tell, though, because although it is denied, it's hard to tell when both sides, India and Pakistan, really put out a lot of information that is either disinformation, misinformation, or the such. So it's hard to know exactly what is true when it comes to that. Historically, we would take the U.S. For their word, but again, with Donald Trump's administration, it is hard to trust anything coming out of the White House these days in terms of whether it is domestic policy, domestic news, or international policy. So again, between the three, it really is tough to know the truth as to who was involved in that. Now, as it goes on, the serious military confrontation between the two nuclear-armed neighbors is the worst that they've seen in decades. Prime Minister Narendra Modi chaired a high-level security meeting today to address the ongoing border tensions with Defense Minister Rajnath Singh, emphasizing India's restraint during Operation Sindoor. However, train services in Punjab remain disrupted due to the heightened security, with 24 trains cancelled and others rerouted. Elsewhere, former Philippine President, Rodrigo Duterte faces a trial at the International Criminal Court in The Hague for crimes against humanity. Despite his detention, Duterte is running for mayor of Davao City, a move that has sparked controversy in the Philippines. Moving on now, of course, in other international stories to watch, Sri Lanka has seen a tragic bus accident in the country's tea-growing hill country that claimed 8 lives and injured over 30 when the vehicle skidded off of a cliff. In Bangladesh, the interim government has banned all activities of the former ruling Awami League Party, led by ex-Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina. And in Kenya, 2 Belgian teenagers face $7,700 in fines or 12 months in prison for attempting to smuggle 5,000 ants, violating wildlife conservation laws. Yes, you heard it, 5,000 ants. And I don't actually know why they would want to smuggle ants out of the country, but again, it is in violation, and we'll have to see what happens from there. Sorry about that. Turning to the United States, President Donald Trump is making waves with a series of bold moves. Over the weekend, Trump announced he is likely to accept a Boeing 747-8 jumbo jet offered by Qatar's royal family, a gift that could become the new Air Force One. The offer, valued as potentially the most significant ever received from a foreign government, has raised ethical and legal questions as Trump prepares for a Middle East trip to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates today. Qatar insists the deal is for temporary use, but critics are calling for transparency. It should also be noted that the Trump Organization has business interests, including the announcement recently of a new golf resort in the country. So again, it is a big concern. Receiving a gift that, from reports, is valued at about $400 million. With that said, as they talk about it becoming the new Air Force One, I'm not sure exactly how that would work, given the special conditions in which Air Force One is constructed, as well as all of the safety considerations and equipment and technologies that are embedded into Air Force One for the security of the president and the nation when the president is on board. So we'll have to watch and see if that means they will be spending money on this aircraft to bring it up to standards for the safety and security of the president's travel. We also need to note that whether or not that gift is utilized as Air Force One or received as another benefit, there are some that say it is just a temporary use aircraft gift, stating essentially that they would get it back at the end of Donald Trump's term. So again, we'll watch that very closely, given the conflict of interest that brings in, the legality, and of course Donald Trump's record when it comes to corruption and accepting bribes. We know that that is a big issue in the U.S. right now. They may call him by other names, but at the end of the day, let's face it, Donald Trump is corrupt in accepting bribes, and probably brides. But in any event, we'll keep you up to date on that, and we'll see how it works. On the economic front, though, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent and Trade Representative Jameson Greer concluded talks with Chinese officials in Geneva yesterday, with a potential deal to be released sometime today. Bessent called the discussions productive, signaling possible progress in easing the ongoing trade war that has rattled global markets. However, Switzerland's president expressed disappointment after separate talks with Bessent, citing unresolved U.S. tariffs on Swiss goods. We also need to once again keep in mind of the lies and misinformation that are frequent from the Trump administration. So it is interesting that we'll have to watch a lot of what China is also saying as these talks progress. In other national news, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration is warning of an atmospheric river hitting Florida and the southeast. Typically, this is a West Coast phenomenon. Heavy rainfall and potential flooding are expected through midweek. Meanwhile, the spread of the New World screwworm from Latin America into Mexico has alarmed U.S. officials. The parasite is capable of killing livestock within weeks. On the labor front, President Donald Trump has started to push to limit federal workers' collective bargaining rights established in 1978, and that is facing backlash. The National Treasury Employees Union, representing nearly 9,000 FDA employees, is preparing to challenge the policy. And in a heartwarming story, an 80-year-old by the name of Linwood Riddick has earned his bachelor's degree from South Carolina State University on Friday, proving it's never too late to achieve your dreams. So once again, 80 years old. Amazing, amazing. As we continue to look around closer to home, you can look at other stories within the context of the topics that we brought up, or we can also take a look at these following stories if you wish to do so. Do take a moment, though, to remember that if you forgot, yesterday was, of course, Mother's Day. If you forgot your mother, make sure you pick up the phone today and wish her a happy belated Mother's Day, but also maybe beg for a bit of forgiveness. But in that mood, the Nashville Zoo marked the occasion early with the birth of a male southern poodoo, a small deer species delighting visitors. Local officials also remind residents that the banks in 17 cities, including local areas, may be closed, so plan your transactions accordingly. In sports, the Milwaukee Admirals hockey team clinched a thrilling 4-3 overtime victory against the Rockford Ice Hogs in Game 5 of their playoff series, advancing to the Central Division Finals. Fedorov Svechkov's overtime goal capped a remarkable comeback from a 0-2 series deficit. In cricket, India's women's team won the Tri-Series title against Sri Lanka with Smitri I believe that's correct, Mandana leading the charge. However, reports of Virat Kohli's potential retirement from Test cricket have stirred debate, with former players like Michael Vaughan advocating for him to captain India's upcoming England series. In entertainment, the reality TV show Perfect Match Extra has fans buzzing over a romantic connection between contestants Bogdan and Naya, dubbed Bognaya. The heartfelt moments have led them to be fan favorites. Meanwhile, Saturday Night Live, of course, poked fun at President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and the new American Pope, which is pretty interesting. And there is some other interesting notes that we'll bring up in just a few minutes about the new Pope that you may not know. So as we move forward, though, you can look at a very important issue about, of course, the U.S. Pontiff, the first one to be from the U.S. Yes, Pope Leo. His election has brought renewed attention to Catholicism in America. And something, as I said, that I was going to mention that you may not know, his grandparents have actually identified as black, and that adds another historic dimension to his papacy. So all of the best to the new Pope and to everybody in America, of course. On a lighter note, the mobile game Dragon Ball Z Dokkan Battle released new characters, Super Saiyan 2, Caulifla, and Kale, though fans are disappointed over the absence of their fused form, Kefla. And that is it for the entertainment side of the stories, folks. But let's take a look at more local news. Now, of course, we look at both Surrey and British Columbia. There was a car accident Sunday morning in Abbotsford. And again, I got that one wrong, so we'll try that again. My apologies, folks. A serious accident that took place on the border of Maple Ridge and Mission over the weekend happened early on Mother's Day morning. Three vehicle occupants were taken to hospital, one of them in critical condition. At this time, there is not a lot of details as to the cause or other conditions of the accident. However, our thoughts go out to the victims and the families of those involved in that tragic event. When we look at, of course, the U.S. is looking forward to the return of, as we stated earlier, the last hostage, American hostage, believed to be alive in Hamas and by Hamas in Gaza, should be returning. So that is good news again that the Americans are looking forward to. We will update you as the information comes out. Now, turning to Canada, Prime Minister Mark Carney is navigating a complex landscape following the Liberal Party's minority victory in the April 2025 federal election. Carney is set to unveil his new cabinet tomorrow, with speculation swirling about key opponents. Posts on X highlight Surrey Mayor Brenda Locke's call for Surrey MP to join Carney's cabinet, citing the city's rapid growth and proximity to the U.S. border. Carney is also preparing for a White House meeting, yes, another one with U.S. President Donald J. Trump, to address the trade concerns, particularly after a viral deepfake video falsely depicted Carney announcing a ban on pre-2000 cars. So if you've heard the rumor of a ban on pre-2000 cars, just understand that it was a deepfake video and it is absolutely untrue and unsubstantiated. On the economic front, Canada's unemployment rate ticked up slightly in April amid uncertainty over U.S. tariffs. Alberta's oil industry is facing for challenges as global oil prices slump, impacting provincial revenues. Meanwhile, a proposed U.S. bill could allow Canadian snowbirds to stay visa-free in the U.S. for longer. That is a potential boost for cross-border communities, including here in Surrey. In British Columbia, the government is reviewing its Clean BC program as emission targets for 2025 and 2030 are off track. In other news, the BC Wildfire Service is deploying 42 personnel to Manitoba to combat a massive wildfire near the pass, burning over 20,000 hectares at this time. And in a quirky story, Elections Canada revealed 822 special ballots were mistakenly kept at a BC office, though the error did not apparently affect the federal election results. U.S. border officials have increased random searches at BC checkpoints, seizing contraband and raising concerns among Canadian travelers. And that should also be extended for Canadian-bound U.S. travelers as well. Have been raising concerns about these extra checkpoints before people arrive at the actual border crossing. Now, among other things, we can look at in housing. Southern BC and Ontario are seeing a pullback in market activity, with RBC economist Robert Hogue noting affordability challenges. And in health, a new Parkinson's therapy being tested in Canada could revolutionize the treatment, offering hope to thousands that suffer with Parkinson's. So again, exciting news in the world of medical advancements. Here in Surrey, a record-breaking $80 million Lotto Max ticket was sold on Friday, the largest single-ticket win in BC history. The BC Lottery Corporation says the ticket purchased in Surrey matched all 7 numbers, and if you have your ticket handy, those numbers were 6, 10, 16, 17, 30, 38, and 48. The winner is yet to come forward, so check your tickets. And of course, we know that the excitement is palpable across the city as we wait to see who the joyous winners of that $80 million is. For our American viewers in Canada, when we have lottery winnings, they are non-taxable. They are also paid out in a lump sum amount, so you're not hit by reduced values in lottery winnings by taxes, and you're not hit by reduced amounts when you take the whole payment as a lump sum. In Canada, that is how it works. You just automatically take the lump sum payment and it's non-taxable. Now, in the city of Surrey, it is grappling with a financial and governance issue. The civil claim filed in 2024 seeks to recover $2.5 million lost to irregular transactions by a former employee, as confirmed by the city manager. Meanwhile, an external investigation into 3 city councillors, Mike Bowes, Linda Annis, and Doug Elford, continues following allegations of disclosing confidential information and misrepresenting staff directives. Mayor Brenda Locke has emphasized accountability, stating any councillor who drags staff into partisan agendas will be called to account. On a positive note, Surrey residents were able to enjoy a free swim at 3 outdoor pools, which is part of the city's community engagement efforts. And on other topics in the community, the Surrey Animal Resource Centre reported a successful no-charge adoption event last week, finding homes for several of the animals in the shelter. And at the Surrey Art Gallery, it is hosting the Arts Council of Surrey's Arts 2025 juried exhibition. That'll be on display until July the 27th, celebrating local artistic talent. If you have the chance, go check out the display. Also, in local news, the Surrey Gymnastics Society is fighting to keep its facility open, with the president stating, "We just want to survive." Apparently, they have been hit with a major rent increase, and by increasing the rent by such a substantial amount, it draws into question the future of the Surrey Gymnastics Society. So if you have interest in supporting them, you can find them online. Just Google search Surrey Gymnastics Society. Any assistance that you're able to provide, I'm sure, would be greatly appreciated by the society. The Village Church is planning a new National Ministry Centre in Surrey, featuring an auditorium as it expands its presence. And we also look at the Downtown Surrey Business Improvement Association, as they are warning of economic headwinds due to potential U.S. tariffs. They are expecting to have labor talks scheduled for May the 15th to discuss the impacts further. As we take a look, we've already talked about the sports and the overtime win in cricket. It's such excitement going on in the world of sports. Of course, the NHL is also in action, and we'll give you some updates and keep you apprised of the NHL situation tomorrow night. We'll take a closer look at it. Now, speaking of sports, though, Mayor Locke in Surrey has a vision for a 12,000-seat stadium and a new entertainment district, and that seems to be gaining traction. Though, of course, transparency concerns linger, but we are keeping an eye on whether this will move forward. I think it would be an amazing addition to the city of Surrey to have that 12,000 seat stadium and a designated entertainment district, as the city's population is growing by 28 residents a day. And that, of course, makes Surrey a very vibrant hub to watch. And that is what we will do, being our local community. As we continue on here, folks, we will call it a night for the news headlines. Thank you very much for joining me, and I appreciate you coming to the discussion in the live chat. If there's anything that you would like to talk about at this time, by all means, the lines are open here in the comment section in the chat box, so feel free to add any comments that you would like to talk about. At this time, of course, there is a lot going on in the local community in Vancouver and, of course, the province and nationally. We also know that there's a lot going on around the world, a lot of war, a lot of violence, and a lot of instability. So we can only hope that over the next few weeks we see more peace talks and we see more peace coming to the different regions, whether that's in Ukraine, whether that's in Gaza, or in Pakistan and India. We need to see some stability return to our planet, to our cultures, to our cities, and of course to our neighboring countries. Once again, you've been watching Live Chat with James. Have a great night, stay safe, and thanks again for tuning in for another live chat. You can like, follow, and subscribe. Hit the bell so you know when new content is posted, as well as spread the word to others, as we would love to see our subscriber base increase, because that also helps to expand the message that we bring. Take care, everyone. Stay safe.